Hey everybody, it's Neekap here, and in this video I'm going to be reacting and going over Max from Liquid's stream. How he's been going over all the class trees here in Dragonflight Alpha, and he had on Bolas, who's like the head guy for Ret Paladin, and Narcolies, who's like a very known player who plays Ret Paladin, and I believe he's an Echo, and had on these two people to talk about the Rat talent tree. So I'm going to go over this, see if I agree with them, what I agree with them with, anything I disagree with them, and stuff like that. See what they have to say about it. I haven't pre-watched this. I haven't seen this. I have no idea what they say. I already did my critique video, so we'll see if they agree with anything I said there or not. And yeah, having my camera over Max's, he doesn't talk about so I watched like the first 10 seconds to see where to start the video at, and he said that they're not doing the class tree, so shouldn't be in the way there. If it is, I'll just move it, I guess, real quick in the middle of this. So let's go ahead and get started here and see what Narcolies and Bolas and Max have to say about the Ret tree.
And Narco, your time has come for Red Paladin. So general thoughts on the tree before we start building it. Not the class tree. We've already gone over that. I think there's a lot of issues there. How does the Ret tree feel to go down? Do you feel more powerful than you were in Shadowlands? Are you able to do like there's always been like 1 minute Ret. Is there like new archetypes that make you more powerful in different situations? How does it feel?
I have a big issue with one thing. The main thing I would say about the tree is the tree looks pretty decent. It's just that Ret right now on retail is stuck where you can choose AoE cleave or single target, right?
Yes.
And that's kind of... And this tree takes that to the next level. Like you could on this tree, you could go pure single target. You're not touching anything else. You're a turret. You're standing there blasting, you know. Or you can go more cleave and you have no single target almost. Or you can go full AOE and you have absolutely no single target.
But you're an AOE machine. Yeah.
Yeah. If the sims are good, then yeah, sure. But we don't know the 100% numbers yet. But technically, yeah. So that is kind of my opinion. Is like I'm just not a massive fan of that, you know. Ret has always been an issue where we don't have the passive cleave while also doing single target like other classes can do with warriors and warlocks and stuff, or rogues even,
and DKs. Yeah, that basically every...
So that's a really good point. That's not something I ever brought up, because that's more of like building a class, right? That's more, the tree does enhance that. I agree with that point, but that's more of like the building, the base bones of the class. And I totally agree with that. I actually talked about this before these talent trees came out, that I was hoping for some baked in cleave to be added to our abilities, such as Blade of Justice and Judgment. Now they have like a Judgment cleave ability, but I would say that just to be baseline, right, was what I was talking about. So I definitely agree with this point. I don't necessarily think it fully depends on the talent tree. I think it just depends on like the base power of the base ability, right?
This is actually my biggest gripe with Red Paladin for the longest time, is the binary choice to cast Templar's Verdict or Divine Storm is something that most other melee don't have to make that decision.
Correct.
The fact that Divine Storm costs Holy Power has tilted me for so long now, I can't even explain it.
Yeah. There's like one or two talents that you can kind of pick to mitigate that a little bit, but it's not by much. It's not anything massive. It's still basically the same. You either are hitting one target or you're hitting everything.
The best time that I can say that this was kind of okay was like mid Legion, when you have like Blessed Hammer, you were playing with the I don't know,
Great Judgment.
Yeah, stuff like that. Like there was one time in like Nighthold-ish where you were like kind of good in like
Nighthold was like my best tier ever.
Never
I was blasting.
And so it feels like you've got a lot of powerful tools, because there's a lot of legendaries from Shadowlands that you can pick multiples of, that you can have like a bunch of them in combination that you couldn't have this expansion.
Yep.
But there's also some weirdness with how you end up picking talents for builds. Like it ends up sort of, I feel like you just pick a bunch of powerful things that don't necessarily have a lot of synergy between them. You sort of like, there's a lot of things that are really easy to grab, so you just grab them because they do a lot of damage, but then you sort of end up all over the place with what you're...
I kind of disagree at this point. We'll see if he explains it more. I kind of disagree with this. So there's actually a lot of synergy in my opinion. All of the Consecration synergies make sense. The Blade, whatever this one is, Blade of Wrath, Blade of whatever this is, that makes your Art of War proc more, goes with Zeal and goes with Ashes to Ashes down here. I talk about that in my videos a lot. There's like this triangle of synergy here. I think a lot of these abilities synergize actually. Like some of them don't. Obviously, Execution Sentence with Final Reckoning both being 1 minute cooldowns. So I actually do disagree with him here that there's no synergy. I think it's just going back to that whole thing where it's like, well, I have to press AoE or single target, which I agree with that point. But I don't think, again, that it's necessarily based on the talent tree. I think that's just because the class is designed in that way, and I think that should be changed.
Your synergy is actually like, if that makes sense. We can work on it when we get down the tree a little bit. But
yeah, they did add a couple of new things that I think are cool to think about. So they made like a choice node to make, and who knows about the power level of it right now, to make Wake of Ashes a spender on a much shorter cooldown with keeping a lot of the same. It's a little bit weaker, but you can cast it more often. Obviously, if you have like a lot of passive holy power building things, like for AoE, for example, right? Like if you're doing the like consecration, you're just kind of gaining.
He's looking for the
holy
thing
power
that
while your AoE
gives you holy
packs,
power
like
when you're consecrated.
You actually
it's
have
here
enough spenders to want
next
to do
to
that,
Path of
or how
Ruin.
compete with Divine Storm.
It's,
this
one
it's a little bit better. I think
it's
that's cool. I think the couple of the capstones I thought was really nice. I don't know how much of this stuff you guys have now. Obviously, Divine Toll and the Divine Resonance, Liadrin's Fury.
Liadrin's Fury is
a
the only
popular
new
pick.
thing here.
And one
and
thing
then
I
being
do
able
find
to
cool about
use
your all's capstones
multiple legendaries
is that you have the option to get multiple. I actually highly prefer the like 4 capstones and
I like this
able
too.
to get, like,
I've made multiple
2
what I
or
consider
3 of them,
really good builds
basically,
by doing
if possible,
this.
or halfway down to a third one.
You get 2.5. Usually.
Yeah, exactly. Then the ones where you have to just like hard commit to 2, because I think the decision making is like a lot more interesting. If you guys want, I don't know how you want to split it up, but you guys talked about making a single target build, a cleave build.
Let's see if they
AoE
agree
build. I
with
would
me.
like you guys to just go through all of those and alter them, starting with the single target, moving towards the AoE, and talk about the power level for each of them compared to how it is now.
The big thing, just like the single target one, is you don't fully know if at the bottom,
Right.
if the left side's gonna be good, if you're gonna go like Final Reckoning, Divine Toll and stuff,
Right.
or if you're gonna go more into the final verdict
Crusade.
and Hammer of Wrath, Crusade with Mad Paragon. There's 2 options. The main thing with the single one is kind of the middle part. If you see Wake of Ashes, Executioner, and Executioner's Will, that's like, if you're picking them, I feel like you're locked in to single target. That's
Yes.
like what I would say
that's
is the main
Skull
lock.
X.
My opinion.
That's
at least.
Sludge Fist.
I don't know what
Agree.
other people think.
Okay, so yeah, when I was making these trees as well, trying to avoid execution sentence and an AoE thing, it kind of seemed weird that it's like the middle point of the tree to branch into both.
Yeah.
And we'll kind of go through, I'm sure that'll come up in the builds, but it's something where it could maybe be in a different spot. All right, so let's just do pure single based on what you guys think.
What
right
Max said actually doesn't
wanna do the trade, or
matter
do you wanna
though,
do the trade?
because because there's entry points from each side, and you need to go on these sides anyways to some degree at least. It's actually not a huge deal, and you don't really want Hand of Hindrance in most PvE situations, which is all Max does. So you don't really want to grab this anyways, which is why you would grab Long Arm of the Law to get down, because at least that helps you in some way. So saying you have to do that is a little bit not true, but that's okay. He doesn't play right.
You can do what yours, and then I can do mine single target.
Sure.
I like that, yeah.
Okay, so pick Blade of Justice, Art of War. All the Blade of Justice stuff pretty much.
Yep.
So you can go down. Divine Storm, you kind of have to take the Crusader Strike Charge and the Judgment CD. Shield of Vengeance, you have to pick to get to Wake.
Yep.
And then Wake, Execution Sentence, and the one below that, Execution as well.
Execution as well,
Sure.
yep.
Pick the Judgment cooldown. Sorry, not Judgment cooldown, Judgment damage yet. That one.
that.
Judgment damage, okay.
Yep.
You gotta get
And
Zeal.
Righteous Verdict. This one, it's kind of just
Power.
depends on what the tuning
tuning
is like for the
is.
actual Consecration Holy Power. It's kind of hard to test it because it's so random.
But let's be honest here. On single target, they're going to make it that inner power is better. That's what they're gonna do.
On Alpha, but I think the once every 10 seconds one's probably a little bit better in a power
Yep.
Sure.
because
Okay.
it's more consistent.
Yeah.
You take Exorcism just because
I
it does so much damage.
Okay.
Okay,
That's
so
like-
he's
even on
thinking.
target.
Okay,
Oh, is
so
it
I
gonna
talked
have
about this. If this is tuned in this way, you'll take Exorcism just to throw it into your execution sentence, right? If it's tuned in a way that it's that powerful. I don't know if it will be or not. I kind of think of it more as a cleave ability, but that'd be actually cool. I would love to have another spell that I just get to press that doesn't cost holy power that can feed in like to an execution sentence. So I'm fine if the build ends up being this way, but I didn't project it to be this way.
Didn't really play with it.
It's not like broken, but it does like just a single cast does more than a TV. So like
Okay.
Okay.
I didn't know it did that much
just
damage.
may as well just take it.
That's
I
what
would
I
take
get
Zeal,
for not
which
having
is
alpha.
up a little bit.
Right here. Yep.
I would take Long Arm of the Law,
Yep, down there.
which is next to Exorcism.
Okay, and then now you have 3 more points to unlock the capstone level.
You have to take that
So
blade.
I take Healing Hands.
Okay.
I think I missed Blade of Wrath, which is...
Yeah, Blade of Wrath up here, and then you have 1 more point.
One more point. I would think the Wake reset is probably still strong enough, even if it nerf numbers. It's only 35% chance to reset instead of 50, like it is with the tier 7 live.
So what did I have?
I think that's still probably good enough to pick over something like Fires of Justice
Did I
or
have
like
something different than
one
this?
of the other random.
I don't think I had
talents,
Exorcism,
but it could end up being that you spend that point somewhere else.
I don't know where
and
I
then with
moved.
this natural pathing, you do actually, at least in the single target build, you have the ability to actually go down every single capstone naturally, which is nice.
Yeah, you can sort of mix it up a little bit depending on which path you want to take. I think my take is probably going to be maybe a little bit unusual, but
we'll see.
I would want to take
I'm with you so far
and take 2 talents and the Ashes to Ashes, because the Seraphim procs are just
100%.
really insane. And then I wouldn't necessarily take Final Reckoning. I'd want to go over to Relentless Inquisitor and take 2 points in that.
Yes.
Okay.
Take Crusade, and then take Vanguard's Momentum next to it. And then the last point, you can either pick
Final Reckoning
Verdict or Final Reckoning.
Completely correct.
Like Final Verdict.
Completely correct, by the way.
One's just pure single target.
Completely correct. I actually don't know their voices, so I don't know if this is Narcolies or Bolas, but whoever this is, I mean, obviously they're both like, one's a super high end player. They're both high end players, but like one's an Echo player, one's the Master of Rat. Of course, they're gonna get it right. But yeah, just great.
But
I'm trying to figure out what point I had different than them, though.
Sentence, so it's like,
did I take?
It has a lot of synergy. It's just you're not taking.
What I took. I might have taken Fires of Justice here instead of Execution Sentence.
So it's
that's what I did differently. So I didn't know Exorcism. I'm sorry, I didn't know Exorcism was that strong. He just said that it's stronger than your Templar's Verdict. I didn't know it was that strong, like the tuning of it. And if it's going to be that strong, then that makes sense. So I took Fires of Justice over here because it's on Empyrean power. That's why I didn't notice it. But that's the other choice here. And I took that over Exorcism. But yeah, other than this is my exact tree with my exact like torn between taking Final Reckoning or what's it called? Templar's Verdict or whatever, the Final Verdict. Exact tree.
Just Execution Sentence is just kind of like a better Templar's Verdict than like a thing you're focusing your entire build around.
Yeah.
Okay, so before we like have his do his single target build, how does this compare to a single target Ret Paladin right now? How different does it play? What is the perceived power level just based on its gameplay? Forget tuning, right? Just like what the class is able to do when it's bursting.
And an extra legend.
Obviously, it has like way less AoE or cleave capability.
So I'll answer this question real quick. He's asking him what is different between this and now in Ret. So the difference is there's only a couple differences. You lose 20% crit on your Avenging Wrath, which sucks. You gain Exorcism, you gain Relentless Inquisitor, and you gain Vanguard's Momentum. That's the difference right now. And that you can have Crusade and Final Reckoning at the same time would be a difference if you choose that route. But if you go the Final Verdict route, then it's kind of similar. You also lose this Conduit, I guess, but you're gaining like 2 legendaries there. So it's just basically the same as Ret now, but you're like wearing more legendaries, essentially.
Ability than a current Ret Paladin does if like an ad set were to spawn. Do you feel rewarded in a single target scenario gameplay wise right now than having to lose the opportunity to AoE by selecting this?
It has a lot more frills to it, I guess is the best way to put it. Like having Execution Sentence and Executioner's Will is more than you have currently. It still has the whole tier set that you have currently as well, and you also have Crusade. So there's like a couple of cool things going on that are all pretty fun to play with and pretty fun to try and sort of optimize and play around with. But yeah, I don't know. It's not picking Divine Toll feels kind of bad. If there is going to be a cleave, I think you kind of have to, you're sort of forced into picking it because it's so good when there's more than one mob. It's just when there's more than one mob. I think the podcast is saying the same thing, but it just a single judgment without bringing clarity is just so bad.
Yes,
I think you can afford to pick it.
It's just because like getting Divine Resonance is nice, but the fact that you have to go through a 1 point that is basically worthless on pure single to get there feels really bad. Yeah. But I don't know if there's really a way to solve that because I assume it's pretty strong in AoE, right? So okay, so this is Narco. What did you do differently for pure single?
So that was Bolas then first. Bolas, I mean, there's a reason why like I use his Wowhead guides as like a template for my own stuff, and he's The fact that my build is almost exactly like his without I don't even have the alpha, it just makes me feel good about myself, honestly. So good job there, Bolas.
The main thing
Let's see what
is
Narcolies
just
says.
you see it on the right. I would go more right than he did. You know, last rights. If you go see, you see the blue Blade of
Oh, I
Justice, that
see.
one,
Yeah.
you know?
What do you drop to grab that?
Well, you can go. You can just drop something and go up.
Exorcism.
I haven't
Sure.
picked Exorcism, for example, yet.
Yep.
Okay.
That's what I would drop too.
Exorcism. What do I have picked here? I go 2 in Temple's Verdication when you have it there ready.
Oh, this one in the
There you
middle.
go.
Okay.
Now,
I think that's
Which one of
yeah.
these do you drop? Virtuous or Relentless?
I do not have Vanguard's momentum at all because it really it's good because it synergizes extremely well with Crusade. My only problem is with everything you have right now is I don't know how many globals you're actually gonna have because I actually have picked Fires of Justice. I'm going very much of a Legion build. If you see, it's under the Blade of Justice, Blade of Wrath actually. 2 under the blue one, 2 under the blue.
Oh, here you go. Okay, Fires of Justice.
Oh, because I remember when I played with this in Legion, it was incredibly strong. I think it was Legion, and actually having some generators with some other things, this actually makes it pretty strong in my opinion. What else did you pick? You picked Ruin, right? I have not played with Ruin at all, so I can't really say. You picked a talent in it. It's the one next to.
Oh no, that's the Wake Reset, right?
Oh, Wake Reset. Sorry.
Yeah.
I haven't. I thought it was the Ruin one. Yeah, I haven't really played with that. The Wake Reset is good.
That's definitely a point you could put somewhere else. It's not that one's definitely not mandatory.
Yeah,
I would agree with that.
I kind of value more the
Blade
getting
of
actual the Blade of Justice, the Expert, because I remember BFA that was kind of broken at one point, and I don't know how the tuning's gonna be when it comes to that point. Like, is the Blade of Justice
everything he's saying is fine?
Like,
it's because you don't know how anything's gonna be tuned.
So I'm just thinking maybe instead of Wake of Ashes resets, we kind of just go for the Blade resets and just like guarantee that and just spam it constantly. Like at one point in BFA on a shard tier. I want Divine Toll and then the next one under Divine Toll because I don't know how that one actually works with the deemed unworthy, which is every third judgment you do 4% more holy damage for 8 seconds.
So he's going up here. So I don't agree with this. What I'm going to disagree with Narcolies on here is, and I think it's just going to be from a tuning thing, and like I could see wanting this. I actually talk about these 2 talents right here. Like if they were tuned higher, I think that they would be good. But without Ringing Clarity, I don't think he can take this on single target. I think he's maybe just assuming there's going to be Ringing Clarity too, because they've mentioned it. So without Ringing Clarity, I just don't think it's worth it. I think you're giving up too much guarantee damage, and then hopefully these things are overtuned, so that way they make up for it.
Those 3 judgments actually count towards it.
They will.
And the Divine Toll also counts towards the 3rd successful judgment. Then it's kind of OP. But if it doesn't count to it, I wouldn't pick the one under Divine Toll, and I would go somewhere else with it, like maybe the Blade of Ruin, Path of Ruin, or Exorcism. But I don't fully know yet. It pretty much comes down to numbers.
Him not taking Ashes to Ashes too. If he doesn't have Ashes to Ashes, I mean that's crazy. Because then I assume then he's taking Seraphim over here, and so he's doing a Seraphim build, right? But the problem is that at the current tuning, the proc for Seraphim is stronger than actual Seraphim. Like you would not, you don't stack them or anything like that, right? The proc is just stronger than the Seraphim talent. So maybe over here on the Paladin side, he's taking Seraphim down here instead of Sanctified Wrath or something, and then foregoing that. But if he's not playing any Seraphim at all, I think that's not probably good.
The only difference in between me and his is kind of just like he's going a little bit more haste, right? And double Wrath, and I'm going Final Reckoning and not Exorcism. That's kind of just the only 2 difference, yeah. Well, you need the Divine Toll. What do I have? You have something I don't.
You would run the singular point in Divine Toll for pure single?
Yeah, because you combo it with Execution Sentence. You combo it with Final Reckoning.
Oh, okay.
You just have everything.
It's just
it doesn't do that much anymore though. They took out one of the
as I said, the numbers is pretty much it for me. It's just more of how you're gonna do as a playstyle, right? The numbers are just it's gonna change constantly. Because
they took out like one of the spell ranks for Judgment, so it does about a third less damage relative to your other abilities than it used to, and it's going to transfer over to Divine Toll. So it's going to be kind of like, I'm not sure, like if you're taking Divine Resonance, I think it's worth it. Like you can put 2 points in that and you sort of get enough value out of it, but just Divine Toll, I'm a bit skeptical.
Do you think it's going to work with extra Judgment, the deemed unworthy, or do you think
it'll work?
It's not, because if it doesn't, I feel like it's a dead talent.
It should work, but I don't know if those two are also worth taking, because I don't think Last Rites is very good. Demon Worthy, I think, is like decent if you take Last Rites anyway.
I would only go Last.
Do that much damage.
Yeah, I would only go Last Rites and Demon Worthy if it like fully stacked up and you went for that full like.
Either the tuning isn't good enough, bud. I'm sorry, it just isn't. And I guess Narcolies is taking Ashes to Ashes. He's just, some other stuff is different here. Maybe he's not even going Crusade. Maybe he's not even going Relentless Inquisitor. He's like really focusing on the second part here. I think that's, no, because he's grabbing Divine Toll too. I don't know. I disagree. Bolas seems to disagree as well.
And trying to keep it as long as you can, right? Because I would more use Divine Toll as like a generator to keep it up, because you said the bug. So it's not like, oh, I'm going to pop into Excrucian and do so much damage. No, I'm kind of just trying to extend it as long as I can. And if I also can increase the holy damage with it for free, like, it's not too bad talents, but otherwise, if that doesn't work, if you're not going Divine Toll, those two talents are completely dead. Like, in my opinion.
Those two.
But then, if you're also not going that, then it goes more towards yours. But then you kind of just become this Templar's Verdict spamming machine. You don't really have any big cooldowns. You have wings, and then you're just sitting there like a turret, right? And as soon as you gotta press anything else, you're just like,
Paladin.
You know, you're pretty much just stuck.
Saying it's a good thing, by the way.
I can only do boss. That's it. If there's ads, bro, I can't touch that.
This is really long.
I can't do any cleave or anything.
Yeah, that's
like swap into like take out points in Vegas Momentum and Final Verdict and just pick up Final Reckoning and Divine Toll instead if you wanted to. You could just swap those out 3 points. So there's some swapping you can do, but yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. I just don't know if I just feel like Red with having to give up the ability to really do any cleave. Like, just imagine a fight like what's a single target fight with some ads? Like think of like a Nerva Darkfane, right? It's not a hard boss, but like it's basically a single target fight. Like single target's the only thing that affected you killing or not killing that fight. The ads could kind of die whenever. But a lot of melee classes especially are really good at just like having a little something every 1 minute to kill those ads, right?
Yep.
Like I think Ret, by going pure single,
so
I don't know.
Here's the answer here. On a Nerva, you would take Divine Toll because you get value from it. The ads come out frequently enough to 1 minute cooldown. You would use your Divine Toll, like even on this non-ringing clarity, you would use your Divine Toll when the ads come out. You would save it for that moment. You would spend down to 0 and you would Divine Toll, and then you would AoE there. You would Divine Storm them, whatever, and go crazy on them as much as you can. That's what you did in Athria anyways. You would, even though it feels bad to do it, you would still use the Execution Sentence on a Nerva, AoE the ads and stuff like that. Obviously save your divine. You were saving your Divine Toll for them then too, because it lined up. If I remember right, it's like a minute that the ads come out every time, so it actually lines up. So that's something that you could have done anyways.
Know if the payoff is there to where you're doing like crazy shit on pure single, but you're also losing the ability to do what you did last expansion.
And then in that case too, I think you also you would like sim in a way, because it's hard to sim cleave, but you would possibly use Path of Ruin there too, right? Just to have it, because Path of Ruin is probably going to be slightly worse than like your single target, but when ads are up, it'll more than make up for it, right? Every minute, after every minute, you're going to get 3, 4, 5, maybe more with Divine Purpose. You're gonna get even more Path of Ruins into every ad set on a 15-second cooldown. 3 to 6, let's say, depending on how long they live, I guess, depending on your group and how far along and you are with its progression or reclear or whatever. You'll get a handful of Path of Ruins in. That could be worth taking there too. So. Your single target build can be modified.
A lot
to
of
cleave.
Burst for just random.
It's not great though.
And that's maybe what doesn't feel as great.
Talent tree, in my opinion, is a very weird spot because it's gonna come so much down to the boss and how hard spells actually hit on live. In my opinion, making a tree, you can make a tree and you can go currently like base and you can say, oh, currently Divine Toll doesn't hit as hard, so let's just not pick it. Demon Worthy, who cares? and you can say Path of Ruin is OP right now. It's like doing crazy damage. We have to go at Exorcism. It's basically like a free Temple's Verdict. Just press it. Like you can do stuff like that, but I don't know.
You're thinking more of the concept of what it should be. Like you're thinking Exorcism shouldn't just be a free TV on single target, right?
Yeah,
probably not. It doesn't. The damage seems like too much for the single target amount. It should.
Yeah, that's what I agree. So that's what I was saying about Narcolies. So Narcolies, it's not like Narcolies is an idiot, right? He's thinking of the way things should be. He's thinking about tuning and stuff. But I'm just saying the way they are now, right? That's the way I look at it. It's the way Bolas looks at it. I'm not going to assume that they're going to make these two talents over here good. I'm just not going to assume that, especially because they have PvP implications. These two talents are very similar to some PvP talents. And, I think Narcolies PvP, so he knows that too. Maybe he's even thinking about that, actually, in his thoughts.
To be probably a bit more around the dot.
It also cleaves, right?
Yeah.
Or it gives at least the dot to everything in your consecrated. With
so that's another way that you could have
I'm just afraid that Reds are not going to be brought for their single target. Like, that's not going to happen, in my opinion. When you bring a class purely for its single target, that's very,
That's very tuning based on the raid. It's like a
crapshoot. And it's also it comes down to the fight, but I would say probably 2 times out of 10 you would bring a class for literally this guy does so much damage, no one can even come close. Like for example, rogues were at one point, but there was that feint, so whatever.
Yeah, that's what I think is weird with this tree. Is if you're thinking about bringing a Ret Paladin right now, like I think for a Ret Paladin to be like they're gonna be tuned around the fact that like Red Aura exists, right? And like if you're only bringing one Paladin to your raid, you're probably going to be Devo, which what we were talking about earlier. So like, like I feel like in a way they're losing a little bit of power because of that. So like one interesting thing from last expansion to this expansion is like the required classes you need because of raid buffs that were so powerful. Either that they were actual 1 hour raid buffs like Fort and Int, or things like Warlocks where Hellstones and Gateways are just as much as a raid buff as anything else. Like you have to have a Warlock, right? Like. There were 7 of those last expansion. This expansion, not counting like DK grips or anything like that, there's like 12.
I do want to see their AoE thoughts, but this is way too long. I'm not going to do the whole thing.
To like fill in your raid at the moment. Yeah, that's a big change. And like imagine bringing in a second Paladin off of the one you already need. Like I feel like Ret needs more. Is like my only thing.
That's kind of like, for example, think about a Shara. The only reason you brought a Ret for the last boss was because he used Blood of Enemy and did the most AoE of everyone, except DK later on.
That's what our job was.
That was kind of it,
I remember that.
I just don't like pure single target builds. I've always hated it, and Ret has always been stuck in this thing where you do single target or AoE. It's the same with our legendary choice now. You can do the Temple's Verdict legendary, or
I do disagree with the tree a little bit just because there are options there. There's Path of Ruin, there's Exorcism with your Consecrate. And you could take both. That Path of Ruin won't be the best thing for single target, but as soon as there's ads, it'll be good. And I do disagree with that a little bit. And then Divine Toll, if they don't make it Ringing Clarity, if they give it Ringing Clarity, like I talked about on my video, it'll just be you pick it for every situation. But without Ringing Clarity, you just take it because there's ads, and it's only a 1 minute cooldown, so you just pop it on the ads. I mean, that's how every other class functions too. So I do disagree with that actually. I don't think it's purely single target. I think it's, I think for the first time we have a couple options, and maybe those couple options aren't as good as some other people's options, but to say that it's the same, I think it's not true.
You can do the Divine Storm legendary. If you do M+, you have to use the Divine Storm one, and your single target is just awful compared to everyone else in the game.
So speaking of that, let's see what it looks like when we start this all over.
It's just more Holy Power generation, and the crit doesn't really matter in AoE.
I guess you just go Wake of Ashes. You would go for the reset afterwards. Here it just comes to the Path of Ruin or Ashes to Dust, the one next to Ashes. It just depends which one is better, honestly. Like whichever sims the highest, that's the one I would pick.
Yep.
Yeah.
You have Calm Before the Storm on the left, next to the Temple's Verdict one.
Yep.
Okay.
I personally would. I think a good Consecration build is kind of the way to go for AoE. I don't know what Bolas' idea is. I don't know if he has tested a lot.
It seems like, it felt like there's so much Consecration synergy in this tree. That seems to be, that is definitely the thing they focused on as the new thing to add to Ret Paladins is...
The reason I don't take this, though, is it doesn't do damage, and there's as we just saw with Narcolies, single target build earlier, there's so many good things to take in this tree that to give up damage for this is not going to feel good. So in my critique video, I actually argued that they combine this with maybe Hallowed Ground over here on the class tree.
Like they want Consecration to be a major part in synergy and
but
AoE.
if
or
like
put Hellbrand over
something
there.
that synergizes with it is kind of a bit much.
The thing is, you also have, if you go to the class tree real quick, because we do kind of want the Consecration, Divine Storm stuff, yeah? You have Hallowed Ground, and you also have, I'm not going to try and say that word, the one next to it, on the class tree, not the...
Oh, okay, yeah.
Over,
it's over...
On the right side. So you have Consecration increased by 10, and then you want one left of it, which, when you actually put it down, you know, each hollow power spent. I think those two talents are kind of needed to do AoE. Maybe
I feel like they're
dreaming.
just very undertuned. Like if Consecration did more damage, it'd kind of be a bit different. But as it is, Consecration just does so little. Like even with all these talents you take, you can invest like 6 or 7 points into buffing it, and you'll still just prioritize building holy power.
Yeah, so I'm just going to agree with everything Bolas says, apparently. That's exactly what I said. The Consecration, I think you have to take the stuff, but then they have to tune it right. And if they don't, it's just going to be broken and it's just going to suck. And it's just going to be a failure, so.
Using Divine Storm over actually pressing it most of the time in AoE.
That's something that they could definitely just buff Consecration, though, like just baseline.
That's what I'm honestly, I'm going with they're actually gonna buff it because there's too many talents.
I agree with Narcolies here. I do. There's too many talents. They put too much work into Consecration for us not to press it. I hope. Actually, I have no faith in whoever does these Paladin class.
Are actually just going towards Consecration. I don't see why they wouldn't buff it. Like I feel like they want us to play it at this point. I see too much Consecration stuff.
Yeah.
Like there's no way they don't want us to play it. Unless it's purely for, I don't know, something else. But maybe I'm blind.
Okay, but then, so you grab probably Sanctification, I assume, if you're playing the Consecration build. The Holy Power from just damage done by Consecration probably scales with targets. Interesting to see how many targets that scales with, if it's infinite, or if it has some kind of ICD on proccing.
It's going to have
you definitely
internal.
Should play around with that. Are you grabbing AoE Exorcism?
Yeah. If you're going that, you're definitely doing that.
Okay.
Let me see here.
There's
You still need to grab this blade over here.
6 points until you can unlock capstones.
The thing is, you can start going right side and go down and get. Well, it's either gonna be Crusade or entering. I feel like Crusade is probably better. So you could probably go on the right side, but I just don't know if you want Virtuous Command and Ashes to Ashes. Ashes to Ashes is really good, but you kind of have to get through Virtuous Command, which is good, but.
I mean, one of the problems with all those traits that you have to go through is 2 out of 3 of them are mostly just single target. Like the Timber's Vindication is just single target, and then Virtuous Command is mostly single target. But Inquisitor is the only one that actually gives you some benefit in AoE.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming. What are you grabbing to get down to like the Fires of Justice Imperium Power node? Or are you? Are you doing the Blade of Justice causes a consecrate on the target location?
If the numbers are correct, you probably would, right? The thing is, Art of War gives you so much holy power that not picking it is kind of like...
You can take both. You'll have enough points.
If you have enough points, you would 110% take both. Because, like, I would value Blade of Wrath over the other one, even if you're going for a Consecration build, just because you get more procs, and you can... If you're playing Ashes to Dust, you can proc more, yeah.
And then Imperium Power, I assume?
I would assume Imperial Power is going to see more, yeah.
Tempest.
And then the Divine Storm AoEs in front of you for 20% of the damage. And then to go down to Relentless Inquisitor, you have a choice for like Justicar's Vengeance, Eye for an Eye, or the healing stuff.
Really depends on it's going to come down to the dungeon, but Healing Hands is usually just free. Well, I didn't pick the Judgment one, actually. What's your opinion about that one, Boundless Judgment? In like, let's say in a plus setting.
Oh, up here.
He
didn't pick Zeal.
Unless I'm thinking wrong. I was a BFA. I don't know.
So
that's what they did.
It depends on if you're running the
right
the stuff that synergizes a bit more with Blade of Wrath, where you want like the extra procs for Seraphim procs and stuff like that. If you're running that, I think Zeal is just going to be better. If you're running Divine Toll as well, it can, like, if that works properly, I'm pretty sure it does. I'm pretty sure I tested it and it did. Then having like a bunch of judgments just all bouncing after you Divine Toll is actually kind of sick. It could be good. I think it's basically an AoE. You pick it if you aren't picking the stuff that cares about, auto attack synergy, and then otherwise you just pick Zeal because
because it goes with Ashes to Ashes. Really so what he's saying is I call it the big 3 triangle: the Blade of Wrath, Zeal, and Ashes to Ashes. So he's saying if you're not taking Ashes to Ashes anyways, then you just take that AoE, the cleave
of the like.
So that's just
okay. But now we've unlocked the capstones as well. Also, what about Do you guys want to? We haven't really talked about Eye for an Eye or Justicar's Vengeance at all. How do you guys feel about those?
Awful. Remove them from the game.
They
Eye for an Eye is
Justicar's Vengeance, literally season 1 of BFA.
Eye for an Eye is like very niche useful. Like I think, you know, you could use it on like Sludge Fist, the boss like that, and it's like, you know, it gives you a defensive, but the times where you actually want like physical DR in PvE scenarios is not very often. And Justicar's Vengeance, I don't know why they keep putting this in the tree. Like
I don't know. I
Viewers don't like it, viewers don't like
someone
it.
plays it at Blizzard, yeah. Someone plays it. I don't know who.
I have
Someone
to
plays
assume,
it at Blizzard.
no one ever uses it who like in any kind of actual,
No.
you know, real content. So I don't know.
Real.
I cannot
Okay,
think of a time when
I'm not gonna say
anyone
real
played it for more
content.
than,
That's
like,
rude.
5 holy power too. Oh boy.
Yeah, that's terrible.
Yeah, it's
Wow.
And does
is it still you need to stun the target? Yeah, it's
Yeah.
still the stunned version. Yeah, great. Love stunning raid bosses.
So maybe replace or rework Justicar's Vengeance. All right. So now that you have 20 points, where are you going in the bottom part of the tree?
You gotta go to Relentless.
Relentless Inquisitor. Two things. Crusade most
Yeah, you
likely.
want Crusade. You want Crusade 100%.
You have to get Divine Toll,
I feel like that's like you go to.
so you
and
have to
just,
go over
like,
here.
pump,
So you're grabbing
right?
Long Arm with the
That's my
Law.
opinion. At least.
And
I
I'm
love
assuming
Crusade.
AoE
Always
Divine
loved it.
Toll, right?
Yeah, I would go. I would, but I wouldn't go. Really depends. You could go a Virtuous Command and get both those two. So if you go,
Yeah, that's what you
Can
do.
you go ahead and-
Divine Reckoning and Divine Toll. You have to
take
take out some
the-
points from
No,
previous.
You can
stuff.
do that unless you want Divine Resonance as well.
you know,
I feel like
I don't think
I feel like you do, but
if you're picking Boundless Judgment and it works the way you think,
yeah,
then it could be good. Yes.
I think there's a couple of like for my tree on AoE. There's a couple of points I would do differently in the middle, but overall it's pretty similar.
Well, you would probably pick Truth's Wake, right?
I could definitely
Or-
take
Yeah.
out, or no, I can't take out anything. I can move around anything up here. Like if I can take points out of. I have like the Blade of Wrath stuff here. It's like that stuff could be taken out and it doesn't affect pathing and can add a point somewhere.
It just comes down to pretty much this whole, like, let's call it build, whatever. It's kind of just comes down to Consecration, yeah. Like if
So if you're curious about my differences here, so in my AoE build, I basically swap out this consecrated ground, or whatever it's called, for Zeal here, because you're already taking the other two abilities that work with Zeal. So I don't see why you wouldn't take Zeal there. It's just like this holy trinity there. So I'd take Zeal there. I would lose that, unfortunately. It's not that I don't want that. It's that I would lose that. And then I think everything else is exactly the same. So
Consecration is still just not good at all on launch, there's just so many talents you're just never
Don't
gonna
take,
look at.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, my stuff
Ever.
doesn't have either of the consecration talents, and it has
Yeah, like you're pretty much going with the knowledge that you have
Boundless
now
Judgment.
and more of a build that's like current, if that makes sense, right? Because
Yeah,
Ret is very similar to
if Consecration sucks, what do you do differently here? I guess you grab this Truth's Wake over here. You definitely grab, they don't have Zeal anyways, but you definitely have that. So that's 2 talents. You get rid of this Consecration. You get rid of I guess the Exorcism maybe for multi-target if that sucks. So those are like the things you might get rid of there if Consecration sucks.
Ret now is very similar to how Ret's gonna be.
Yes.
If that makes sense, in my opinion.
yeah.
And see, I don't like that. Like I just don't think that's good enough with what's available. Like look at Ellie, right? Like Ellie right now.
So I'm going to call it there. I think I was looking ahead here. They're going to talk about like raid viability and stuff. I'm going to probably agree with everything there. Overall, I agree with what the guys said. I agree almost exactly with Bolas without knowing anything ahead of time. His stuff pretty much mirrors my thoughts completely. I think Narcolies is more trying to like look in the macro of like how it's supposed to be, which I think is fair too. Like, my AoE build matched Narcolies because of that, or it was very close to Narcolies because of that, because I'm assuming Consecration is going to be good. I agree with both of them in many ways. I think Narcolies is a little bit biased towards those judgment talents on the right side, where I'm not so, sold on those being good or Blizzard making them good. And then on AoE, I'm more positive about Consecration like Bolas is. So that would be my only difference there. Obviously, I agree with what they're saying. Anyone who plays Paladin at a high level is going to agree about the defensives, like being able to survive, movement, not bringing anything to raid. We're all going to agree on those things. So that's probably what they're going to talk about the rest of this time. And I'm just going to hard agree with all those things. So I did this video because I said I was going to do it. I'm actually really, really tired. Been putting out these videos each night and losing sleep doing so. But it's been a really good and fun week for me. So I don't mind. That's it for this one, though. As always, I do ask you to please subscribe to the channel. And other than that, everybody, have a good one.